I'll tell you how it went down. And believe me, it's one of those stories you wouldn't believe unless you'd lived it yourself. It started with a sound that could rattle your soul at 2 in the morning. My custom alarm, not the smoke detector, not the house security, but the little system I built to watch every electron flowing in and out of my solar grid. The graph on my nightstand tablet shot up like a skyscraper, 48 amps, the max my charger could ever pull. Only problem was my car was sitting fully charged in the garage. Someone was out there at my wall helping themselves. I pulled the curtain just a crack, and sure enough, there it was, a pearl-white Tesla sitting smug in my driveway, cable running straight from my wall into its side. And leaning against it, silk robe slippers, phone in hand, like she owned the place, Margaret Hill, president of our HOA. She didn't even flinch when I stepped outside. Just smiled that syrupy smile and said, "Evening, Caleb. Just a little top-up? We're neighbors after all." I told her plain, "This isn't a public charger, Margaret. It's my house, my power, my panels on my roof." And she actually laughed, waved at my charger and said, "Community feature, Caleb. You set such a fine example." That was the moment something in me shifted. It wasn't about money, what's a few bucks of power. It was about principle, about someone trespassing in the middle of the night and telling me my home was a shared resource because she declared it so. Now, I'm not a man who yells. I'm an engineer. When something breaks, you build a system so it won't break again. The next morning, I sat at my workbench with coffee and schematics, and I started designing a fortress. First came a lockbox over the charger handle, solid steel, weatherproof, can't just pull it out. Then I wired a hidden breaker in the attic, so with one flick, her little midnight plug-ins would be nothing but a dead outlet. And finally, the jewel of it, an RFID access module. 2 tags, only one in my wallet, one on my wife's phone. No green blink, no electrons, period. By Sunday night, it was all humming perfectly. Lock, moat, gatekeeper. I almost felt guilty at how much satisfaction I got tapping my card and hearing that click. Almost. Because deep down I knew Margaret wasn't going to quit. People like her don't stop when told no, they treat no like a dare. So I added one last thing, a monitor box, my black box. Tiny computer sensors data logging every volt and amp to an SD card, and if anyone ever tried something stupid, it would cut power in milliseconds and text me a warning. I slept easier that week, until the text came. Just after midnight, a sharp buzz, unauthorized access. I crept to the window and there she was again, only this time not with my cable. She'd brought her own. A cheap adapter, the kind you buy off some sketchy site, plugging it into a holiday light outlet by my porch. I felt my stomach drop, no handshake, no safeties, just dumb copper, pretending it could talk to a smart car. And as I stood there, sure enough, a hiss, a flash like a welder's torch, then smoke pouring out of the port on her Tesla. I grabbed my Class C extinguisher and ran. One sweep of white powder and the little flame was gone, but the side of her car was a melted mess. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd realize how badly she'd messed up. Instead, she spun on me, eyes wide and wild, and screeched, "You sabotaged my car. You set a trap," and before I could even argue, she spotted the tiny monitor box blinking red on my wall, yanked open the cover with her nails, and ripped out the SD card like it was treasure. Then she bolted. Now I'm not proud of what happened next, but instinct took over. I dropped the extinguisher and tore after her barefoot through hedges and lawns. Neighbors started flicking on porch lights. I was yelling, "She's got my evidence." She was yelling, "He attacked me." And then those red and blue lights swept over us, deputy's cruiser rolling up, hand already on his sidearm. She put on the show of her life, sobbing, hands up. "Officer, thank God he tried to burn my car." I kept mine steady, voice calm. "My name is Caleb Reed. I live right there. That woman just stole my property after trespassing. The deputy asked her to open her hand, and when she hesitated, he pressed harder until finally she uncurled her fingers. There it was, my SD card, black plastic square, blinking truth. He sealed it in an evidence bag right there, and in that moment I knew the tide was turning. The next day, the fire marshal confirmed what I'd said all along. Her cheap adapter shorted, not my wiring. Neighbors started handing me camera footage clear as daylight showing her sneaking over, plugging in the arc. The smoke even her kicking my locked charger out of spite. One neighbor's doorbell caught her voice shrieking that lie about me setting her car on fire. I pieced it all into a 2-minute highlight reel, every angle of her downfall synced to the second. Then came the cherry on top, a local reporter called. Someone tipped them off, probably Tommy across the street. At first I didn't want the circus, but then I thought about all the fines and threats Margaret had shoved on this neighborhood for years. I showed the reporter my permits, my code-compliant setup, every layer of my security. Then I hit play on the video. Watching her jaw drop as that story unfolded on screen was almost as sweet as hearing the community cheer that night when the segment aired. By the time the HOA meeting rolled around, it wasn't a meeting, it was a showdown. The clubhouse was packed, standing room only. Margaret tried to run through the agenda like nothing happened, but I stood up with a projector under my arm and said, "I've got new business." She tried to shut me down, but the board waved me through. 2 minutes later, everyone in that room had watched her trespass, watched the arc of electricity, watched her steal evidence and try to flip the script. When the lights came back up, the silence was heavy. I told them this wasn't about a few bucks of power. It was about abuse of power, about lies, about safety. Then I called for a vote of no confidence. Every hand went up. Even her own board members turned on her. She left without a word, and the room erupted, neighbors clapping, slapping my back, finally breathing free. I held up one more paper, a restraining order signed that morning, and laid it on the table. That was the nail in the coffin. Now I sit back on my porch some nights listening to the quiet hum of my system, and I wonder, why do some people think rules don't apply to them, that your home is theirs for the taking? Maybe it's power, maybe it's pride, maybe it's just plain arrogance. All I know is this truth: when you've got it on tape and in numbers, it speaks louder than any accusation. So tell me, if you were in my shoes, would you have chased her down that night, or just let her run with the evidence? Do you think the vote to remove her was justice served, or should she have faced more? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this with a friend who's had their own HOA nightmare, and let's hear where you stand on what real community is supposed to mean.